Hello, everyone, and we're back. Welcome back to the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. That's what we are. Each episode, we take a look at classic and iconic films from two perspectives, that of the die-hard fan and that of the uncultured, unsullied, unwashed who's never seen it before
Ew.
until now. Yeah, I know. We're your hosts, Justin and Joe, and today we'll be talking about the 2010 psychological horror flick that is Black Swan. Now, as a reminder, you can watch us on YouTube or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the like. Just search for the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. And please remember to like, review, and subscribe. It really helps us out and gets us into the ears and eye holes of new people, just like you guys. Also, be sure to check us out on Instagram at UCU Podcast for all the latest happenings and whatnot. And also, big shout out to Ryan, our new social media manager or social
Ryan,
media,
man.
doing her thing, doing a really great job. Getting the engagement up is what we want.
She is doing stuff with Instagram stories that could be considered an art form.
That we could never.
Justin, I think I still stand by what I said when we came out of the theater after watching Black Swan. This is going to be a short episode. There's just not enough to talk about with this movie.
Yeah, what else? What else is there to talk about? It's like it's Natalie Portman, and we're
This is
done.
just plain and simple. It's following like a simple three-act structure that's been like passed down as one of the great stories for generations. I don't know what to say here.
Yeah, Black Swan is based on like Kramer versus Kramer, which is
Technically
like
a
a
children's movie.
right. It's based on like Old Testament stories. It's really great. Um, but yeah, so we're talking about Black Swan. We're gonna unearth a whole Pandora's box worth of mommy issues through this one, and all kinds of madness. But
What a mommy in this movie.
what a
I
mommy!
want to get into the Barbara of it all.
Shout out to Barbara Hershey, killing it in this role. So let's talk about the theme for a little bit, Joe. We are sitting on Saturday, June 3rd. And what does June mean across America? It's Pride Month. You
Happy
may have
Pride,
noticed.
y'all.
You may have noticed we did the thing. We leaned into the rainbow marketing, and we got a new logo. It's cool.
See, here at UCU, we don't care about what our sponsors say. We're gonna celebrate Pride, even if it costs us millions. So you're welcome.
Yep, that's right. Fuck you if you don't. This is great. But yeah, so it's Pride, and so we're taking a look at queer cinema
Hmm.
and movies with really complex social, societal things to talk about and things like that. So this was my choice. This was Black Swan. This was a movie that Joe had never seen before.
Hmm.
And then, as it was, the stars aligned again. This movie played in person in our local Atlanta theater at the Plaza Theater, and we got to go see it in person, and it was great.
Plaza has kind of become like the UCU go-to for movies we want to cover. Like,
It's it's
part one
surprising.
coming soon.
Yeah, this could just turn into the Plaza podcast, essentially. Maybe. I don't know. Shout out to the Plaza Theater. Our people will call your people.
The good folks at the Plaza, we love them. It's a great theater. We saw this movie in their, I can't remember the name. They give each of their theaters like a guy's name.
Yeah.
We saw this one in the upstairs one, which has like maybe 20 seats in it. It was like I told you, it was like watching it in like a home
Theater, yeah.
like mansion theater or whatever. It was
Yeah.
very intimate. It was very fun. It was kind of just like projected on the wall.
Yeah, it felt, exactly like that. We were at somebody's basement,
Yeah.
surrounded by our friends, but we didn't talk to anybody because we don't do that.
Yeah.
But
You
it
could
was
tell it
great.
was like a cool group of people watching with us. Like it was
It
a
really
cool thing to
was.
do to watch Black Swan on like a Wednesday or something.
Yeah, at 6:30 in the afternoon. But it was great. So yeah, this was my choice. I had originally wanted to do a different movie.
I want to hear about this. I want to hear
We
about
were going to do Interview with the Vampire, right? So I wanted to come at it from a bisexual's point of view.
it. Hmm.
Find a film that Joe had never seen before, um, and a movie that kind of stands out as like bi culture, that
Hmm.
elicited immense bi panic
And I had
across.
already seen The Mummy, so we couldn't have done that.
We couldn't do that, and then there's like a couple other ones, but are just like that are just staples. But Interview with the Vampire was going to be the one, but then checking on Instagram, we saw on the calendar that Black Swan was coming out, and I was like, oh. That movie is, it's really dark. It's right up my alley, obviously, but it's sapphic. It is, there's all kinds of undertones to it, and I was like, okay, that's a better switch. We'll do that, and we'll probably do Interview with the Vampire later in the year for spooky season. So we'll just do that. So that's where we landed.
Yeah, yeah. I had never seen Black Swan. It's kind of interesting. This parallels a movie that we did previously when we were talking about our Oscars miniseries. So your pick for that miniseries was The Social Network, and
Mhm.
this actually is part of that same Oscars year.
Yep.
So Black Swan was kind of not like his first Aronofsky's first Oscar movies, but it was kind of his biggest Oscars hit from what I can read.
To date, yeah. Well, no, not to date. Like his most recent movie that he did earlier this year with the Brendan Fraser and The Whale,
The
um,
Whale, yeah.
also got a ton of Oscar buzz and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so he's been in the circuit for a while.
Hmm.
Um, I've always loved Aronofsky flicks. The very first thing that I saw from him was Requiem for a Dream, and we talked about this earlier. And you haven't
Another
seen it,
pleasant one.
yeah, right? It's just a joyful movie. But yeah, we talked about that before we went in to go see it, and you're like, "I don't think I wanna watch that." And, I agree. It's one of those movies that, like, you just watch once, maybe twice, and you're good. You're good. Um,
Yeah, I don't even think we can put that in the guise of like a queer cinema movie. That one's just like deep and dark hole
it's
cinema.
it's just fucked up cinema. It's wild. One day I'll make you watch it, and we'll just appreciate it for what it is, but we won't talk about it on air.
We
Uh,
got spooky Halloween season coming up.
it is spooky in a very real, dark, horrifying sense.
But yeah, that
After yeah, after that, I saw, The Fountain. Did you ever see The Fountain?
that was the one Aronofsky I have seen.
Yeah.
So I randomly saw The Fountain like growing up as a kid. Didn't really get it, but I mean I think we were just like a big Hugh Jackman household at the time. Who wasn't?
Who wasn't?
But that one's more. I guess it's not really a horror movie. It's not even that dark. It's more just about like themes carrying backward and forward across time and through generations and lifetimes and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a time travel-y sort of, but also like sci-fi epic. And
Hmm.
it's fantastic. And yeah, so those were like the first two kind of like earlier touch points I had for Aronofsky. And he is a filmmaker, he is an auteur. All of his movies feel to me kind of similar. Like how we talked with before about I think during the social network. Um the social network of it all.
Hmm.
We have these directors that like you could look at these movies that feel like they're a part of the same universe, and Aronofsky does that really, really well.
Yeah, Aronofsky's a little freaky boy. That's you can always be guaranteed something a little freaky is about to happen, and it's not overt, but he's got his subtle use of CGI to kind of create like an uneasy feeling throughout most of his films, and especially in Black Swan.
Yeah,
I really loved how computer generated bits were used in this movie as you kind of like track Natalie Portman's character Nina's dissension into lunacy in terms of
yeah,
like her own body horror versus like the doppelgangers that she keeps seeing in the world around
yeah.
her as she pursues perfection and ultimately destroys herself in the process.
It's great. It's such an interesting journey that she takes. We'll talk about the portman of it all, the
Mhm.
supporting cast, and then these giant themes that emerge throughout the movie. But yeah, so when I first came to see this one, and I told you this as soon as we walked into to the plaza, I'm pretty sure I saw Black Swan at the plaza in 2010 or
What a full
2011.
circle.
Right? Very cool.
Hmm.
It needs that kind of indie theater feel, I think,
Hmm.
to fully immerse yourself in it.
Yeah,
Um,
seeing Black Swan at a Regal, it's just like,
it's not the same.
what are we doing?
You want like those borderline uncomfortable old school classic theater seats. You don't want the recliner. You don't want the fancy hot dog with chips and dip on the side. You want like a shitty bag of popcorn
Yeah.
You want to be sitting up straight so you can pay attention to this film.
You want to feel a little dirty and freaky. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what Aronofsky wanted. That was his pull quote. It's on the back of the DVD. It says like, "I want you to feel dirty and freaky along with me." It's Pride after all.
Darren Aronofsky, 2010.
But yeah, I was blown away when I first saw this movie of just how just gorgeous the
Mhm.
movie is shot. And the sets are very stark and deliberately um, decorated, right?
It's a very black, white, and brown movie. Obviously, black and white are very much the themes of this movie, down to like the clothing that they're wearing. The I It's in New York, yes. Like we're assuming it's
Yeah.
in New York. The
Yep.
bits of New York you see look disgusting. It's always like they're running through like scaffolding in like the rain and mud. And other than that, it's like just gray landscapes of like ballet dance studios with mirrors on every surface,
Yeah.
mirrors everywhere, mirrors. This movie is the prequel to the Kiefer Sutherland franchise, Mirrors.
Little known fact. A little known fact. Right here, you heard it here first. Yeah, I love the cinematography. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure this movie was nominated for best cinematography at the 83rd.
I've got it pulled up. I was actually looking at like the awards of it all while we were talking. So, little bit of an Oscars corner.
Yeah,
Harkening back to our April. This movie was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, which is big. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress. Obviously, Natalie Portman. This is her win for Best Actress.
took it.
Best cinematography, like you're
Mm.
saying, and then best film editing. And those two technical ones, I would agree, kind of fit this movie best. There's definitely like there's a handheld feel to the
Yes.
camera that makes you feel crazy
Oh God,
a
it's
little bit.
it's it's not quite nausea inducing, but
Hmm.
it is very it kind of goes along with the kind of look and feel that I love with movies of kind of like voyeuristic.
Hmm.
Like, it feels like you really are walking, like, just right behind her in
Yeah,
those walking tracking shots where she's just walking everywhere. I love those shots so much.
I've never seen a house that is essentially just one big hallway, but that's like where her and her mom live. They
Mhm,
live in a hallway that has other hallways leading off of it.
mhm.
But yeah, the camera is very much following slash stalking the characters in this movie. It's almost like it's like you're saying, it's like peeking out behind things.
Mhm.
It's very much the idea. It leads to a paranoia that Natalie Portman is clearly
Yeah.
experiencing.
It's really tense too, and I
Mhm.
and I think he accomplishes that really well in a lot of his movies. They're not like these grand, giant, 30-foot ceiling apartments or whatever. It's really small, and it's kind of, suffocating at some points in
Mhm.
time. I'm thinking of, her mom and hers apartment. It's very claustrophobic in a way. The rooms are very small.
It's
It's just a
tiny.
long
It's weird.
hallway, and then I think it's like in the basement or whatever of the dance studio. It's like underground with like those cement walls and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, and it feels really dark and kind of just like it's oppressive,
Well,
and that adds to it.
I mean, we close read movies all the time, but you can read into the fact that like the rooms only look bigger whenever there's mirrors present, and it's like reflecting this like endless idea. But
Hmm.
it's like there's a fakeness to it. There is a lie there where you're actually, this character is like super enclosed and in a cage, but it feels like a large open space.
Yeah.
So it's very much this world that she's in is closing in on her as she strives to manage these dual roles.
Ooh, I love it, Joe.
Oh
Good
my,
read. Good read on
let's
you.
write fucking papers. Forget this podcast. I don't want to.
Should we just be academics?
Yes,
I love it.
we're
Great. All
gonna
right.
publish a zine,
It's a zine.
a zine
Yeah, it's like magazine, you
magazine.
know. A couple other things I wanted to touch on before we get to just like some stats. So this movie reminds me of several other films. Did you ever see Whiplash?
No, 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 no. Another stressful movie I have heard.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it either, but from the clips I've seen and highlights and stuff, it feels totally the same vibe, right?
It's very much like the striving for perfection and
Yeah.
the unending hill that you're on trying to get there.
Yeah, and then just like the hell that your mentor or teacher just puts you through, just the
Hmm.
mental anguish and breakdown, that kind of stuff. I would love to go back and watch that movie.
Hmm.
Maybe we'll do a follow up. We'll do a UCU reacts, and we'll just do that one.
Well, I mean,
Um,
we've been talking about, we're listeners. We are figuring out some sort of like mini episode esque type structure that kind of exists outside of the world of our miniseries. So we'll keep folks posted on
yeah,
that.
yeah. We just keep earmarking all these things. It's just content for days.
Yeah, well, there are movies and even TV shows and other types of media that we want to review and talk about, but maybe not within our regular structure.
Yeah, who knows? It could be a whole new podcast,
Hmm.
starting from the ground up. Who knows? Or we just change this one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so another one, in doing my research, apparently this movie is a very close cousin to another one of Aronofsky's movies, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Tell me
And I
more.
know you said you didn't see that one either, right?
I know of it
Yeah.
also through the lens of the Oscars. So that's like Mickey Rourke almost wins an Oscar, and then like Marissa Tomei's in there
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm,
So that's typically how I've experienced Aronofsky's movies. Like the reason I know Black Swan is it's Portman's Oscar and it's Kunis's almost nomination
yeah, but she did some
out of my
Golden
context.
Globes. Yeah, we'll get there.
She
Or she
gets
didn't.
a
She didn't.
lot
She
of
got
it.
snubbed.
I
Yeah.
want to talk about like who maybe pushed her out of the Oscars.
Oh yeah, let's get there. But yeah, so apparently, so he did The Wrestler a couple years before doing Black Swan, and
Hmm.
it's same kind of themes, really, of like putting pressures on a performer, even though one is, you know, light, dainty, upper echelon kind of thing when you think of performers of
And the other is
ballet,
Black Swan.
and and the other one is Natalie Portman in Black Swan. Yeah, it's like a grimy underground has been wrestler kind of thing, but it's the same kind of story of like
Hmm.
seeing someone try to strive for perfection or reach their best, but they get in their own way, they get in their own head, and they kind of just destroy themselves at the end.
It's also
Um,
it's very much about how the mental breakdown and the mental straining can't help but be reflected in the physical as well. Like it becomes like a body horror bit as well. Like as her body like physically starts to fall apart or transform in ways that she can't seem to control.
yes, absolutely, yeah. One other movie that this reminded me of, just in a sense, I don't know if you saw the 2018 remake of Suspiria, starring Dakota Johnson.
No, but I've listened to a podcast about that. I listened to a podcast called "This Had Oscar Buzz," which is where they talk about movies that like almost, well, literally had Oscar buzz, but weren't ultimately nominated for Oscars. And they really dove into the 2018 Suspiria.
Yeah, that movie rules.
Hmm.
It's a dance kind of thing, but that's really where the similarities end. It goes off the rails into Horrorville and Fucked Upville, but it's still kind of like mystery, darkness, dancing,
Hmm.
stuff like that. But it's really cool. We should check that one out as
Well,
well.
it's these filmmakers. Whenever whenever you're exploring the world of ballet, it's never going to be like a lighthearted rom com in any way. It's these people just like breaking their bodies to achieve what we would call perfection in this case, because like ballet is so precise. You're supposed
Yeah,
to be like almost like a machine in the way you move, and so that is obviously present in Natalie Portman's character at the beginning of this film, and then the entire conflict of this movie is someone telling her to veer away from that. Like all this stuff that you've worked for your entire life, that's not what I'm looking for. I want you to show some humanity, show like let go a little bit.
yeah. It's the equivalent of a so I'm a graphic designer, or I
Mhm.
have a graphic design background, creating branding and stuff like that. When a client comes back and you have the precise pixels down to where it needs to be, and they come back and they say, "Can you make it pop?" And you're like, "What the fuck does that even mean?"
Give it a
Like,
little more soul. Yeah.
yeah, it needs some zhuzh. Um,
I don't
it
want to fuck that logo, and that's an issue.
absolutely. Um, to pull exactly from Vincent Castle, yeah. Would you fuck that logo? Neither would I. Like, so weird. But it's the same kind of thing of like she is a technically proficient, perfect dancer, but she
Mhm.
lacks the inhibition of the soul and the I don't know, earnestness, the honestness.
Well, it's yeah. I like how they frame it too. It's like this Tomas, leader of the ballet guy, Vincent Cassel, comes in and he's wanting to move on from the the older ways of Swan Lake and the Winona Ryder of it all. Winona, oh my god.
Winona.
And get into more of like a new interpretation, which includes less precision and more emotion. He wants to make the audiences feel things. He wants to make ballet sexy again. And Nina's like, I always thought it was beautiful, but I don't know how to be sexy. And there's so much queerness in there where we should have a little bit of like a queer corner here. And we
We
can talk
absolutely
about
will.
sex.
Don't you worry about it. So let's do this. Let's jump into the trailer. Let's get a look at this. Let's get into the mindset and the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I'll hit you with some numbers and we'll go from there. So let's see what we got. I hope the sound works this time.
Oh my god. Nice.
I had the craziest dream last night about a girl who was turned into a swan. But her prince falls for the wrong girl and she kills herself. He promised to feature me more this season.
Well, you should. You've been there long enough. And you're the most dedicated dancer in the company.
Our new Swan Queen, the exquisite Nina Sayers.
I'm Lily. You're gonna be amazing.
Watch the way she moves. Sensual. She's not faking it.
Seduce us! Attack it! Attack it! Come on!
Where'd you get these?
It's nothing.
You sweet girl.
Feel my touch. Respond to it.
Someone's hot for teacher. I don't want to talk about that. You really need to relax.
It's the role, isn't it? It's all this pressure. I knew it'd be too much. I knew it.
What's she doing here? He made me your alternate.
The only person standing in your way is you.
How do you know where I live? I have my ways. She's after me.
Nobody's after you.
Please believe me. Sweet girl. Sweet girl.
What happened to my sweet girl?
She's gone!
Yeah, dude.
That's a great trailer.
It is. It's so. Ooh.
That kind of covers it all. Yeah.
It paints the right picture, what you want. It's creepy. It's personal. It's great. So yeah. So Black Swan, released December 3rd, 2010, directed, as we said, by Darren Aronofsky, starring Natalie Portman, Vincent Cassel, Mila Kunis, Barbara Hershey, Winona Ryder, and of course, dare we forget, a baby Sebastian Stan.
Oh my god, when he came on screen.
And you're like, as I live and breathe. Look at him. Sebastian. What a guy. $13 million budget, very small. 328.4 million worldwide.
This was a fucking hit.
A slam dunk,
Yeah.
as they say in the sports world, you know? And like we already touched on, 5 nominations at the 83rd Academy Awards, 4 nominations at the 68th Golden Globes. Portman also took Best Actress for that one.
Yeah, this is kind of Portman sweeping for the
Yeah.
year, basically. Like you get Oscar years where people are kind of battling it out up to the very last night, but for this one, I don't think there was much contest for who would win Best Actress.
Yeah. Going back to the Academy Awards, we touched on this earlier, the Best Film Editing that Black Swan was nominated for, The Social Network took that one. There's the connection.
There we go.
This is what this podcast is all about. It's about making connections.
Oh,
The other categories they were nominated for at the Golden Globes were Best Picture, Drama, Best Supporting Actress, Mila Kunis, and Best Director for Darren Aronofsky. Very
it's
cool.
kind of a rare it's a rare horror nomination for the Academy and the Globes and all of this. They don't usually like honor horror in this way, but it's also kind of a secret horror movie.
Yeah, it's not quite too far. It's got tinges of horror. It's more thriller and psychological fuckery stuff. And you know, to some that is more scary than some of the cheaper, some people would say, of like cheaper horror movie kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's for most of the movie, it's about kind of like an artist's pursuit of perfection and how it's just like tearing them apart from the inside, which we've seen in a few different movies. But then there are elements of literal jump scares in certain cases, and again, that kind of leads into like the paranoia that she's feeling. But I do want to get into like just the parallels in story between, there's almost like three different layers of it that you can read into.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
there's obviously like they're doing a ballet, the Swan Lake, which is a familiar story. It's there's the naive white swan, there's the more sensual dark swan, and there's these men characters kind of throwing her around and corrupting her across the stage. So she's tasked with playing both of these characters, while in her real life, she has replaced Winona Ryder, and then Mila Kunis rises as this more sensual, free-spirited rival who has like more control over her sexuality, her emotions, while being less precise as a dancer. And then if you zoom out even more and think about like the Winona Ryder of it all, like in real life outside of this movie, this is a bit of a Winona comeback, I would say.
Absolutely, it was.
After years of kind of being ostracized from Hollywood a little bit, after she had like legal troubles, and then you think of like Natalie overtaking the spotlight from Winona. I'm not saying like they have beef
No,
as like
they don't. Yeah.
anything, but like you think of like that handoff happening in the same way as this prima ballerina handoff is happening in the movie.
Yeah, it's great. It's wild. That's a really great read
It's
too.
great casting. Like whenever you see like awards for casting, like this is a great way to think about it. Is like, what do these actors themselves as human beings stand for, and how can you kind of like play that into the film?
Definitely. Yeah. It's a small cast, at least the top billed ones, but damn it, they all play together so well. Yeah, let's jump into that. I'll go ahead and consider that like your plot. You kind of just described the plot in a way.
You're easing it up on me this time around.
I'm easing it up on you. I'm closing my phone. I'm not even going to open up the
I'm so
stopwatch.
glad, because I would have floundered trying to describe this plot.
You just would have talked about the cake that her mom brings her.
Oh my god.
Okay, so let's jump into that. Let's talk about the antagonists of the film, right? Okay, let's start there. Let's start at the top where it always starts, with the mother. With your mother, we'll start there.
You're killing your mother.
Barbara Hershey, what a piece of work. Nina
Looks
Carter.
like a shark in this movie.
She's had some work done. It looks like she stays at the top of her game, but damn it, she plays that part so well, you know?
Right. So
Um,
in the plot of it all, she is Natalie Portman's quote unquote supportive mother, who she lives with in this movie, who gave up her own ballerina career way back when she had Natalie Portman as a baby, and kind of translates the guilt of that into pushing Natalie Portman to be the best, while also very much having like a emotionally abusive and sometimes physically abusive relationship. You can there's evidence like Natalie Portman used to maybe cut herself a little bit, and uh, she is manipulative. Barbara Hershey's character is manipulative to the point of like making Natalie rely on her for things, but also like supportive in the way that she wants her to do her best. It's a
it's
very
toxic
crazy
relationship.
dynamic.
Toxic relationship. We'll talk about this later in the themes of just mental health and mental disorders and things that are present throughout the movie. That's a big thing that shows up here too. But yeah, so Barbara Hershey, the mother, over nurturing, manipulative, gaslighting, mental anguish inducing, which leads into their
Can turn
codependent.
on a second, like
Yeah.
they're having a great time, and then she doesn't want to eat the cake, and it's immediately, oh, you hate me, I'm going to throw this out.
Yeah, right. And you're just like, that's not good. But like, I immediately, the first time I saw this, and then even this too, this nth time seeing it, the opening scene, they're at their apartment and she serves her breakfast. She serves Nina breakfast, and it's just a half of a grapefruit, and it's like, this doesn't feel right. Like, it's cool, like extenuating circumstances or whatever. You try to put yourself in the moment, and you're like, okay, it's fine if she's still living with her mom. They're supporting one another. Maybe something happened, or that kind of stuff. But you immediately kind of shove that out the window and you're like, oh, this is a codependent relationship that I'm
Yeah,
witnessing.
they both try to play it off like it's Gilmore Girls and they're best friends when really the mom is controlling every aspect of her life and monitoring her like the government. Like Natalie Portman's fucking flip phone in this movie is basically just a one-way line with her mom. Her mom's the only person who calls her and she calls her constantly.
Yeah. And it's just anguish inducing. It's so much that like you see this relationship happening. You're just like, man, you want so much more for Natalie because you can see that she is this really talented, strong-willed type of individual, but like her mom just has her claws in her, you know?
It's a jump scare every time a phone rings.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, mom's calling. So like you can obviously tell that her mom was the one who pushed Nina into dancing. Surely it wasn't her idea. Of course not. And it just has that perfect setting for the environment of codependency, like we're already talking about, of, she had to give up her dancing career to have Nina. She had to put her life on hold and she's living vicariously through her.
And
And it's
has
just bleh.
completely stunted her, which leads to the entire basis for this movie. Nina is a perfect and professional and experienced and talented dancer, but she talks like a child. She kind of acts like a child. She lives in this child bedroom with her mother. She has these dolls and stuff. And
Yeah.
this black swan role is what opens her up, but it becomes kind of too much to handle in like the weekend that this movie takes place in. Like how long is this?
It's probably several weeks, to the auditions and the
One
stuff, but it
crazy.
feels like one wild weekend at mom's. No, it's yeah, like the one of the beginning scenes towards the front when Nina's going to bed and her mom is in there like stroking her hair and tucking her into bed and winding up the ballerina like it's so just like, oh, it's creepy. It's heartbreaking.
It's all very clawy. It's all very like I'm touching you, but kind of in an ownership way.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
it's icky.
again, the second she sees like a rash on her skin, which we never really get an understanding of, but it's kind of like Nina's stress kind of coming to life. Maybe she's scratching herself. Maybe she really is growing wings or something like that. But
It's like it's a tick. It's a stem. It's a thing like that,
she
and
becomes like a tyrant and just like completely undresses her and drags her into the bathroom and starts
clips her
snipping
nails.
nails.
Ugh, God, I hate it so much. It's
Oh,
so bad.
this movie should have been nominated for some sort of like sound design type of award where it's just like anytime like razors are involved or like scissors, it's like the loudest thing you've ever heard.
Oh God, like you've never heard scissors so loud in your
It's like
entire
you
life.
feel it in your soul.
Yeah, you can feel it deep. It's bad. It's bad.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Barbara Hershey, hats off to her. Cool.
Great
Let's move on. Let's move on to the essay master himself, Vincent Cassel or Cassell.
Because
What a creep. He, ton of French film credits. I haven't seen him in much else. I saw him in like season 3 of Westworld.
he's in season 3 of Westworld. I know him from like the Ocean's 11 movies.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He plays like the French burglar guy.
Very fun. But man, he plays this role really well.
He is the worst version of the boss who's like, we're all family. Don't fucking worry about HR. Just kind of let it out. Like, I'm going to kiss you, but it's for
It's
your own good.
it's the boss that comes up behind you and rubs your
Like,
shoulders.
stop being weird about this. Like, why are you so uptight?
Yeah, and this is obviously way before the Me Too movement of it all and all that kind of stuff. But like even still, like you watch this and you're just like, this is also like, you see all these pieces being hurled at Nina, her mom, Thomas, and then Mila Kunis we'll talk about in a minute. But like absolutely repressing her and keeping her stunted. I love the way that you said stunted, right? He is taking full advantage of her, which he's done before. He's done to other girls, but he is so predatory, creepy, overtly seductive, and just oozy.
She doesn't have much or any experience with sex in terms of like a relationship builder, and the way he tries to introduce her to it is very much just as a tool. to open her up. I mean, he obviously has like some sort of weird attraction to his dancers, and he wants to get it where he can get it. But like the way he tells her to use sex is very much the wrong way you should introduce someone to sex in that way. It's very much like
It's so bad.
this is an instrument to bring out your best self, and not a way to like build a connection with someone.
Like the scene when they're rehearsing it, just them two, and he just starts just like making out with her and just grabbing her all over the place, and he's like, then now that's me seducing you, when it should be the other way around. It like it's
It's
sexy, but it's so just gross.
it's masterful in the way that he makes everything her fault.
I know. God, everybody is gaslighting the fuck out of Nina, and it's so
It's like,
heartbreaking.
I just want to dance.
Can I just let me dance, people? But he is great in this role. He is a terrific antagonist, not quite the villain, but definitely not the good guy at all.
No, and he doesn't get a comeuppance really. It's more that like she takes power in the relationship. I mean, not that this is healthy in any way, but I loved the part where at the very end when she finally has like her Black Swan performance and she steps off stage and the entire crowd's going wild and she just like grabs him and like pulls him into a kiss. I wanted her to like end that and just kind of slap him a little bit and be like, "Hey, shut the fuck up."
Yeah.
And, like, walk back out on stage and dance.
She said it with her eyes. She didn't have to do anything else with it. But yeah, that's such a great scene too. Yeah, I wish he
And
got
he
his
loves it. He loves getting slapped around a little bit by it.
the perfect comeuppance is as soon as like the end of the movie happens, like cops come and just like arrest him for just
No,
his rap
that's
sheet
not
is
happening.
huge. His huge rap sheet of just sexual assault.
This is not a
across the board.
movie where your predatory boss gets fired or arrested.
Yeah, if this movie were to be made post 2016, absolutely he would have gotten his comeuppance in some regard. But yeah, so Barbara Hershey, Vincent Castle, crushing it. Let's move into Kunis talk, Joe.
Kunis.
Christ, what a performance, you know?
Again, great casting because this is a movie that's about like doppelgangers, and she's very much like Natalie Portman's in her league in terms of like actresses being together. She's not as precise or like awarded as Natalie Portman has been before this, but she's very much played more of like the sexy character in certain movies leading up to this, and that kind of comes to a head in this movie. And they use these actresses and their personas, what they're known for, very well. Although Natalie's, I mean, played a variety of characters in the past, obviously.
Sure, yeah,
I
but
don't think she's like uptight or anything in her career.
but yeah, the breadth of Natalie Portman's career versus Mila Kunis's is starkly different. But yeah, like you said, it is almost mirror images of each other to a certain extent. But yeah, like Mila Kunis has long black hair, you know, and Natalie Portman usually has shorter, kind of
You
brownish
kind
blonde
of
hair.
think of Natalie as like a more serious actor, but Mila Kunis has more like charisma in her roles some of the times,
Yeah.
which is very evident here. Obviously, they're both they're not vying for the same role. Like Nina in the movie definitely has the role, but it's almost her own paranoia that allows Mila to kind of just fall into place as her alternate.
Yeah.
If Natalie could just be a little bit more chill in this movie, like maybe they'd be fine.
Yeah.
But she can't get over the idea that this other girl has something that she doesn't, has something that she can't access, and is therefore going to take this part from her. And on top of that, hallucinations obviously come into play, and she becomes an unreliable narrator.
Yep, it's crazy, and I love that we take that seat just along with her. I think it really would have kind of derailed the movie a little bit if you had the opposite perspective along with Nina's perspective. We stick with her, you know, auditory, visual hallucinations, and we're like, what's real? What's reality? Did she actually kill Mila Kunis at the end? Did she not? You know, all of those things. If it would have taken me out if you would have seen like this is what's actually happening, like it's a person going into insanity. So I love that we kind of stuck just within the one lane.
No, I mean
Uh,
it makes sense to have it from Natalie's. I keep switching between Natalie and Nina; they're the same person. Natalie's
and Nina.
perspective, but like you also feel for Natalie's character some of the times in terms of like her kind of thinking that Mila Kunis's character is annoying. Like I felt that a little bit. Like Mila Kunis comes in and to this like prestigious ballet house
Like
and
late,
it's kind of like smoking and has like an iPod earphone in, and it's kind of just like get it together.
disrespectful.
She's kind of
Disrespectful.
too much of the cool girl, and they all love her for that. But she's also, whenever you would hear her like laughing in the background, whenever like Natalie's trying to do something serious, I was like,
Yeah.
fuck this girl.
Yeah, like
Um,
step it up a little bit, you know. I love the scene when they go to the restaurant and she orders just like a burger, like a greasy
oh
burger,
my god,
and
yeah,
she don't
she
even care, you
eats
know.
that, and Natalie's like nibbling at a lettuce leaf.
Yeah, like it's so sad to have that, but yeah. So I was, originally, and probably majority of the audience is familiar with Mila Kunis from her role from that '70s show.
Mhm.
She's kind of a comedic role, and also Family Guy and that kind of stuff. But she started to take that turn towards more drama, stepping into those different kind of acting chops with American Psycho 2. Did you ever see that one? It's
No.
wild. It's weird. You can skip it. Um, but another one that she did a couple years prior to this was Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and
Mhm.
she's great in that movie as like the same kind of air to her of effortlessness and letting go and living your true self, that kind of stuff.
She's a cool
Uh,
girl.
but apparently, that role from Forgetting Sarah Marshall landed her this role. Aronofsky saw her in that and was like, "That's the girl that I need to be opposite, to be the Black Swan, essentially. The antagonist."
I also just realized that like the Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis pairing would come up again the next year. Do you know the whole thing with like No Strings Attached versus Friends with Benefits? They're like the
Yeah,
exact same movie, but they
yeah,
came out at the exact same time, and
yeah.
Natalie's in one and Mila's in another. That's so
Yeah,
fun.
it's the Deep Impact versus Armageddon conversation. It's Empire Records versus High Fidelity,
It's
High
Barbie
Infidelity
versus Oppenheimer.
of our time. Absolutely, love that. Cool. Let's hop into the Portman of it all. Let's give her her moment and her shine.
Hmm.
Absolutely deserved the Oscar. Absolutely deserved the Golden Globe.
Hmm.
Um, really stepped it up in this role. This is one of the main top tier things when I think of her. I think of this movie.
Right.
Not Star Wars, not Garden State. It's this for me. It's
It,
it's top tier. It's upper echelon
it's
acting.
obviously such a physically demanding role, and you can tell like they push their bodies to unhealthy degrees in order to have the body of ballerinas. Her back muscles in this movie are insane.
Bonkers.
And there's like an interesting like little tidbit with the Oscars story for her role is like there was some controversy around how much credit should be given to her dancing body double in
Mm,
this movie. Because again, like going back to like how much of this movie is subtle CGI, there's certain sequences where her face is like grafted onto the body of like an actual dancer in this
right.
case. When she's like they're doing like the full body dancing and she's kind of twirling around. That's maybe not Natalie Portman, although she did a lot of the dancing.
She absolutely did. Yeah, both her and Mila Kunis did months and months and months of training and
Mhm.
crazy crash course dieting and exercise and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like, fucking, I think I saw Mila Kunis got down to like 110 pounds, which is
it,
just like,
it's not
God,
great. It's not
it's not
great.
great. But I do kind of appreciate that. And I kind of wish, like, in this modern time, it's starting to become less of the norm, or at least more people are talking about it, of just the
Hmm.
physical toll that it takes on actors to achieve these types of
Hmm.
physiques for movies. You know,
It's Robert Pattinson and Batman not wanting to have like this shredded body or anything.
yeah, it's like just be real for a second. Yeah, let's end the superhero body, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I think regardless of that, I think Natalie Portman's performance really shines in the non-dancing aspects of the movie either
yeah,
way. So I would still give her the Oscar for this movie, I think.
she absolutely like perfectly encapsulates that timid meekness There's one shot, I don't think it was in the trailer, but she's practicing by herself and the lights turn off and she goes to run around the corner. And just the delivery of the like, I'm still working here is so
It's she's
like,
this tiny child trapped at the bottom of a well for this whole movie.
God, it's so good though. And that makes the like her descent into madness and darkness so compelling.
And
And
the parts where she's dancing and you're watching her face, like the performance comes through, and whether or not whenever like there's several moments in the movie where she dances the Black Swan part, and you kind of have to judge whether or not she's doing it correctly. And her face is what tells it. Like so many of the beginning parts of the movie, she's like completely fearful and uncomfortable. She's trying to, you can tell she's like concentrating on precision and landing these moves. And then at the very end, when she's actually finally performing it, she's escaping into it. You can tell, like you can see the confidence on her face and her body responding to that instead of the other way around.
absolutely. Yeah. Like towards the beginning, she's kind of like looking around the room for approval at some points, but also too, she's very internal of like, I need to stick this move and I need to land this perfectly. But like at the end, yeah, like you said, when she's wearing the contacts, she is the Black Swan.
It's so great. It's so great because there's the mental transformation into the Black Swan, and then there's obviously the physical bit that comes into play here. Physical in terms of like, yeah, she's probably hallucinating, but like, there's very much like Black Swan transformation happening on screen, and the subtle ways that like they kind of show CGI'd or maybe makeup button bumps on her skin that eventually become feathers in this amazing sequence where she's like twirling on stage and it's just like sprouting out of her.
That
I
scene,
love that.
that scene in particular is just, pardon the pun, it is goosebump inducing. You seeing that when she, so it's like after she kills Mila Kunis and she comes on stage and she has the veil on and her eyes are red and she is encapsulated by the character. She comes off stage for a second, she takes off the thing and she's doing this weird, you can see it's almost like possession, right? You can see her just like kind of just like breathing deeper and heavier and she's just kind of like looking around.
She becomes more animalistic. Yeah.
She's very animalistic, right? And she's just like looking for sex and she's looking for the next move. And that's the kind of feeling that I get. And then like the animated trill of the goosebumps and the goose flesh coming all across her, and she's becoming the Black Swan. And that's when she goes out and she does the twirls, and the feathers appear, and then the crescendo, right? And she lands and she sticks the last move, and her wings pop out,
Oh,
and then they have this pull away shot from the audience's perspective, and she's normal, right? But the shadow on the back of the wall still has the feathers, and it's
I love
so
that.
fucking good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. There's that performance part, and then there's kind of wackier transformative moments throughout the movie that kind of border on comedic. This isn't a comedic movie, but there were moments where I kind of laughed when Nona was kind of part of that. But there's a moment where like her neck gets really long like a swan. There's a moment where like her legs kind of bend
backwards.
and she gets like goose feet a little bit. Like it's all just very it's zany in a way.
It gets a little wacky, and
It's
that's
horrific. Like it's horror, but it's also just like what the fuck are we watching?
what did I just see?
This has never been put to screen before.
Yeah. One moment that I do remember that I love so much and I'll never forget it. It's they're on the last performance and they're performing it live and she's still doing the White Swan dance. She's still kind of unsure about herself. She's hallucinating obviously still, and it causes her to fuck up with her dance partner and he drops her right on her knee. The gasp that you gusped in the theater was so loud, Joe. It was amazing.
The only one who responded to that.
She lands on the ground.
Bone cracking sound.
And Joe goes in the theater, and it's the loudest thing you've ever heard.
And then her dance partner just goes, "What the fuck?"
It's so bad. Yeah. They're
Whatever. I was really into it.
Joe was just invested and he loved it so much. I will never
So
forget
good.
that moment. It was so good.
Great movie. You can really see like how it became kind of a hit. It's such a fun watch in a way. It's such a fun thing to show people.
Yeah. Cool. Let's hop into the final bit here and talk about the themes. And let's have our little queer corner and then we'll
Well,
do
wait,
it.
hang on.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
end with Career Corner. Tell me about your cocktail here for a second.
Ooh, yeah. This is what we're calling a blackberry swan.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is muddled blackberries and other just random berries that we had around the house, but mostly blackberries. Sparkle syrup because it's pride, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
An Empress gin, get your Empress on, and lime juice, and it's this like dark purple, fruity, ginny, delicious.
Aphrodisiacal or something like
Yeah,
that.
I feel sexier when I drink this, and
It
it's only 2 in the afternoon.
You look sexy. It looks tasty. I have a bit of a Darren Aronofsky cocktail that is experimental and up for interpretation. Um, I'm calling it the Mila Kunis Club Special, and
Okay.
the recipe is any little cocktail you want, plus a little something secret in there
Ooh.
that you don't tell people about.
There may or
I'm
not
not
be drugs in there.
saying roofie your coworker, but like that would fall into this recipe.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I do love that scene when they're at the club. She clearly sees that she's drugging her drink,
yeah. She
and then
like
she's just like, "It's fine."
was Mila Kunis about to drug her? Like what's happening? But like they both know that there's a drug in there, and then she's like, "Fuck it, like I'll throw it back, whatever."
She's like, "Just a couple hours, right?" And she's like,
Yeah,
"Yes, no big deal. Let's go fucking
right. They
clubbing."
talk about it, but like, what if she hadn't seen it? I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of paints Mila obviously in a worse light, but
Hmm.
yeah, that scene is great. The whole bar scene, going to the dance club, and then leading to their erotic encounter, which
Hmm.
leads us into queer corner here,
Mm.
Joe. So one of the main themes that I wanted to talk about is just like closeted homosexuality. Is that
Hmm.
this is present throughout the movie, right? Nina obviously is rejecting advances from um, Thomas,
Hmm.
other than trying to further her role. She does not seem interested in him at all.
Hmm.
Not interested in sex at all. It seems, he asks her if she's a virgin, and you can kind of tell she's maybe lying or telling the truth, but it's not important to her at all. So maybe there's some kind of asexuality thing kind of going on there too. But
Right.
also, a scene that stands out to me is towards the end, during the performance. You can see Mila Kunis's character on the wings, kind of like flirting with her dance partner. She goes and grabs his junk right in
Hmm.
front of her. Um, and you can see that Nina is seething with like jealous rage, but not for her partner because she doesn't give a fuck about him. She wants to be with Mila Kunis.
It's queer anger, it's queer repression. When I was so like it's our Pride miniseries. I spent some time kind of thinking about like the queer themes in this movie, and you think about like queerness, and a lot of it has to do with like the act of sex, but like you try to like separate it a little bit, like it doesn't always have to be sex, as this movie very much shows. So there's something very queer, and I'm specifically saying queer and not like gay or lesbian or bisexual, just like the idea of like her not meeting the expectations of like societal norms, right?
Right.
When it comes to sex, but when it also just comes to her relationships with other people
Yeah.
and with herself, it comes off as very queer, and there's a pressure there, there's a paranoia there, there's pressure to act normal in society, that she's having to deal with throughout this film. You can see it when she's like talking with Tomas, and he's like you're saying, like he's asking her about sex, and she kind of lies about it. Lying about sex is like the queerest thing you can do. Um, and then there's something queer about having to like maintain this straight, serious personality and not being able to like show this true emotion the way you want to show it,
Right.
but
Repression.
instead having to like imitate it as best you can, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you like I'm not a queer scholar in any way. This is all very surface level. We're doing
That's
like
funny. That's what I have you in my phone as, like
I know.
Joe Murphy, queer scholar.
The queer scholar of the group now. It's you can think about queerness in terms of repression, which is very much
Very present.
Portman's character, but then there's also queerness in terms of like liberation, which is more Kunis's character, who is somewhat queer in this movie as well. Like she's open to it. Like let's do it.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of two sides of the coin, all told through the guise of like this theatrical production, which is yay as fuck.
Right. It's ballet, you know,
Yeah.
like what more do you want?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the way she's lusting after Lily at some points, but also just kind of just like seeking comfort.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love the way that when the drugs start to hit and they're in the bar and she just like nuzzles up to her is really
Mm-hmm.
sweet. It's kind of a sweet moment. And I kind of like, even though it's drug induced, it's really sweet. And you can tell that she just like longs to be her in
She
a
won't.
sense.
Yeah, she longs to feel something physical in her body that isn't related to attaining perfection through ballet.
Yeah.
And everything in her life, every touch she has, like everything she feels, has been related to ballet, and not just like related
Being
to
a person.
being a human being. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, it's heartbreaking in that regard.
So good.
And then, so like her hallucinated love fantasy scene that she has with Mina is so incredibly sexy and so just raw. And so I want to be her in that moment. It's not like a hetero straight kind of thing of like, hey, it's two chicks getting it on. That's hot.
You
Just like,
recognize like the feeling.
yeah, it's just like, oh my God, like that is so hot. I want to be Nina in that moment. You know, it's just like she's just
It's
being
a movie about
devoured.
queer longing between characters, queer longing between the audience and the screen, all this longing.
Yeah, it's great. And then just like the scene when she picks her head up, Mila Kunis picks her head up, and she just like does this, and it's just like
the sound design in that scene too, like she is like slurping at you, like stuff is gushing. It's sticky, it's wet.
it's very raw. It is
is
true
very
and honest. It's wild. All right, so last big thing I wanted to talk about in terms of theme is just
yeah.
mental illness, mental instability, and all that kind of stuff. There are elements of bipolar disorder, dissociative identity disorder, other mental illnesses, OCD, codependency, all that kind of stuff is super present, which is, more so explored, I've found, historically in queer movies, right? The more hetero straight movies are afraid to kind of explore those.
It's against the norm. It's
Yeah.
going outside of societal expectations of what your mental state and your sexuality should be.
Yeah. And so I think this movie does a really good job of kind of shining the light on a breadth of these kinds of things. And it gets conversation started, I think, of like, codependency, of like, what does it mean to be truly supportive of somebody else versus pushing them into a thing? What does it mean to repress your own feelings versus explore them? To, I loved you brought up, like mirroring yourself after somebody else to fit in. Like I've done that 100% a bunch of times. I've been a chameleon of sorts in terms of like different social groups and stuff like that.
Having a different personality based on who you're talking to.
God, right? Like before you get to the point where you turn 33 or whatever, and you're just like, oh God, like I'm actually, this is who I am. And you love it. So
That and like really striving into one area to achieve perfection in the hopes that it kind of distracts people from asking you about your personal life. So queer.
right. Yeah. There's elements of like autism and physical stims and stuff like that, like with the back scratch and that kind of thing. This movie is just filled to the brim with, genetic kind of mental disorders that you can clearly see from her mom. She's obsessed like with her room just filled with all those art pieces that are like halfway done or kind of
I don't
started.
even know how to interpret that.
Really dark kind of stuff. And you can tell that she's passed on a lot of that kind of stuff to Nina. And it's really sad.
Just
But-
not being able to understand or attain certain emotions, but also making up for it by like really diving into other emotions
Yeah.
as well. Just
Destructive
an
or otherwise.
imbalance, internal imbalance there.
Yeah. And it ultimately just destroys the individual at the end.
Right. Like practically none of this is resolved. I mean, she breaks away from her mom a little bit quite violently. It's not a great way to do that. But then like she's still striving for perfection. She doesn't recognize that like the real way to win this situation is to maybe fucking quit the ballet. But like
Yeah. The answer was in front of her all along.
she cannot get away from this obsession with like doing this perfect dance is going to fix all my problems. And she maybe the worst part of this movie is that she does she kind of says that she touches perfection at the end, and so you can kind of tell like if she survives the last scene of this movie where she's bleeding out on the stage because she stabbed herself, she's going to be chasing that for forever. She's
just said, "Hi, you can't do
she's
it."
probably not getting better after this.
No, she probably won't dance again. And then, did she actually really stab Winona Ryder in the hospital? We don't know.
Who knows?
Could the cops be waiting for her and Vincent Castle at the end? We'll never know. But I think this movie, so the story of Nina and everybody else mirrors, obviously, the story of Black Swan. There's the other, there's the duality, there's these two prince kind of characters, male characters kind of pushing one way or another, corruption, all that kind of stuff we talked about. But ultimately, at the end, the Black Swan kills herself. So it can be interpreted that like maybe she does die in the end, and it is
the
very
White Swan kills herself.
Oh, that's right,
Like,
the White Swan. Yeah.
I mean,
So-
I don't know in the story of like the actual like Black Swan or Swan Lake. God, Black Swan's the movie.
Yep.
Are there actually two swans at play, or is it literally one swan that gets kind of corrupted and then comes back to being white?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I know traditionally in the ballet, it is one dancer doing
Right.
both dances, kind of a thing, but playing like the twin of sorts. So I've read one interpretation of like she's embracing like the white swan dies, so the black swan can live
Yeah.
as the title. She is embracing both sides, so she'll come out at the end better. She killed off her old self, either that or she really did just stab herself in the gut, and it's just not great.
I mean, and you think like it's not healthy to be the white swan. It's not healthy to be the black swan. Maybe the black swan is the better of two evils here. The lesser of two evils. I don't know.
Yeah, I want the let's have the
get into your own
sequel.
apartment. She's moving out at the end at the very least. That's a good step, Nina.
She told her mom, she said, "I'm moving out."
She didn't actually kill Mila Kunis. That's also a good step.
Right? Yeah, so that way Mila can have the sequel, Gray Swan, pregnant with Sebastian Stan's baby.
It's just a rom-com.
It's just a rom-com. It's just a
Remember
silly.
when I used to do the ballet and that crazy shit happened?
Anyway, now I run my own Abercrombie and Fitch store. Wah, 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 wah.
Franchising.
Gray Swan coming to a theater near you. Joe, any other final closing thoughts or call-outs you wanted to have before we jump into the end games here?
Fun movie. Fun viewing experience. We should really be taking advantage of the plaza wherever we can.
This was the third time we've seen a movie in person, and I think we're doing it right every so often, so it doesn't become just like the thing that we do. But
Yeah,
we
we'll sprinkle it.
we should definitely take more advantage of that.
It's
as-
great because like I also don't have the chance to like take notes as I'm watching the movie, so my notes are a little bit more improvised and raw, a little bit.
Yeah, and you
I have,
let
like,
the
two
whole
things written down right now.
you let the whole experience wash over you, as opposed to being on your couch when you can pause it and go to the bathroom, or you get your phone out or whatever. It's great. Cool. Yeah. So Black Swan had a hell of a time. I love that we got to go see it, or that I got to see it at the Plaza again. It just fit. It felt right. Cool. So one of my favorite things. We're in the end games now, by the way, Joe. Hope you're ready. One of my favorite themes from this movie is duality. Right? It is black versus white, good versus evil, all that kind of stuff, and it's super prevalent in every aspect of the movie. So I played with that theme, and I'm coming at you with a game I'm calling. Well, I won't tell you because it's at the end of it, but here we go. I hope you're ready.
Oh god.
That's right, Joe. We're playing Joey the homophone player.
What the fuck?
Joe, we're playing a word game.
Bach Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Audio listeners, I wrote that piece. I knew I wanted to do a riff on Swan Lake, the main thing. So I just kind of got into the studio and kind of just ripped that out. And I let Ryan, my wife, listen to it. And she's like, you know what this is giving me? This is giving me Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibes. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I was going for. And so I kind of took the logo of Buffy and made Joey the homophone player. And that's what we're going to do.
Pride. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, homophone, Joe. We're playing a word game. So, Joe, in case you aren't familiar, which I know you are, but a homophone is a group of words that have a similar sound but are spelled differently, like the number 8 and ate, like I ate food. You know? Although that is not to be confused with a homonym, which are words that both sound the same and are spelled the same. Ring and ring, a physical ring versus like you ring a bell.
Yes.
Or a homograph, which are words that are spelled the same but have different sounds, bass and bass.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to throw you off. But we're playing a game about homophones or homophones.
They can be spelled different, but they sound the same.
Yep. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a phrase, a short phrase or a list of words, that kind of thing. And I want you to give me the example. So I'm going to give you the first one. We'll walk through it together so you understand. So if I were to say to you, a couple of shapely fruits, I would want the answer to be a pair of pears.
Oh, it's very... Wait, don't tell me now.
Very much so. Okay.
I got you.
You with me?
A pair of pears, yes.
Okay, so that's 1 of 10. So we got 9 left. Okay, so Joe, I'm going to say to you, a nude, cave-dwelling woodland animal.
A bear.
A bear, you got it. All right, Joe gets the check mark for that one. An armored warrior in the dark.
A knight at night?
Yeah, there you go. You did it.
Okay.
All right. They are going to get harder as we progress.
Oh my God, I'm so scared.
An average aircraft.
An average aircraft. A plane.
Plane. You got it. No, you're doing so good.
I'm giggling with you.
All right. Here we go. To abscond with an alloy.
To abscond with an alloy. Steal.
There you go. Steal. Joe, you're crushing it right now.
I'm so good at this. I'm going to get an A. I'm going to be perfect.
I can be perfect. A flirty pond fish.
A flirty pond... See, this is where, like, I'm not going to know because we're getting into actual names here. A flirty pond fish. Oh, a koi.
Koi. There you go. You got a wide berth of vocabulary, don't you?
I don't, but I use what I have well.
I know you do. A high-ranking yellow vegetable piece.
Yellow vegetable piece?
Mm-hmm.
High-ranking yellow vegetable piece. Oh, Colonel. You threw me off with vegetable.
Yeah.
That was like a squash?
Squish squash. Here we go. This is Ryan's favorite. Stabbed pumpkin.
Stabbed pumpkin. Gourd.
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 All right, 2 more. Here we go. A reasonable taxi trip.
A fair.
A fair. Last one. Here we go. The hardest one.
Oh, God.
Entire void.
Entire void. Hang on.
10 seconds.
No. Hang on.
No.
I'm banking all the time I saved on the other ones.
Okay.
Entire void.
10 seconds?
Something with like lot or space?
You can stand to miss one.
Here, give me the first one and I'll try to get the second one.
I almost fell for it too.
Okay, I don't have it. I don't have it.
We're looking for whole hole.
Oh, god damn it.
Whole hole.
That's good. That's good.
Great. That was, you are the holophone player.
Your audio's going in and out. Hang on. Try saying.
That's okay. It's okay.
You're back. You're back. You're back.
It's
A
okay.
whole hole.
It's a whole hole. You are the homophone player, Joe. Welcome. Well done.
Joey the homophone player. That
I'm gonna
was wonderful, Justin.
I'm gonna
Way
send that to
go.
you. Yeah.
Doppelgangers.
Yeah, we're gonna add that to the Instagram stories in a couple days after we launch this episode. So be on the lookout for it. Well, you already know the answers, but who cares?
Some people might not have listened yet.
Maybe we'll give you new ones.
Ooh.
Ryan helped me out with that, so maybe she'll come up with new ones and just like fuck everybody over. It's gonna be great. So that was Black Swan, Joe. We did it.
Black Swan. Justin, I'm always continuously happy with the picks that you have. They fill in like major gaps in my culture. Like I have always wanted to watch Social Network. I always wanted to watch Black Swan, and it just like it feels like that particular time period just like passed me by a little bit. I never really went back to it, and so I'm
Yeah.
really glad to fill in these like late 2000, early 2010s gaps.
These gaping entire voids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The whole hole.
Let's fill them in. It is Pride after all. So here we go. Yeah, so that was episode 1 of our mini-series. Joe, do you want to give a little teaser as to what we're going to do next week?
Yeah.
Or the week after? I don't know.
We are going to end. I know we're doing this super early, so we have like 5 weeks to figure this out. We're going to end Pride mini-series with a slightly lighter fare with my pick, which I also saw for the first time at the Plaza way back
Ooh.
when. It is Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. So we will be
Amazing.
talking about drag.
Amazing. I can't wait. I'm going to do a RuPaul song.
Such a fun movie, and I can't wait for you to experience it.
I'm really excited too because like I am a fairly like in the past several years just got onto the Drag Race bandwagon.
And I've never seen Drag Race, so you're gonna have to like bring that to the episode.
Oh yeah, that movie's from like 1993 or
Has
something
a
like that.
RuPaul cameo too.
Oh my god, that's perfect. Great. So I'll bring like the nuggets. I'll bring the nugs, and we'll just have a good time with it.
RuPaul's drag name in this movie is the best thing I've ever heard.
Oh my god, I can't wait. I'm so excited. Cool. So stay on the lookout for that, y'all. At UCU Podcast for all the latest happenings. Remember to like, review, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your mom. Tell your uptight.
Tell your sworn coworker enemy who may be a hallucination.
Yeah, tell them. Just write it on a piece of paper and slide it to them, and they'll come check us out. The Uncultured Cinematic Universe. This is great. We'll catch you guys next time. See ya. Happy Pride. Stay safe out there.
Happy Pride, y'all. Bye.
Bye. God, that song still slaps every time. See y'all.